Good morning. This is Talking Devils, the leading independent Manchester United podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Barton, joined by United legend Paul Parker to talk over a good week at United. If you're watching live on YouTube or Facebook, feel free to get your questions and comments in. If you're watching live on the replay, say hello, feel free to comment. We do still reply. And if you're listening back on the audio podcast, feel free to like, subscribe, and review on the platform you're listening on. Paul, how are you doing? Good weekend?
I'm good, thank you very much.
What games
Yeah,
did you get to?
the only game I done this weekend was a United game. It's the only
Oh,
game I
nice.
done. Yeah, it's all I've done. So it's been all right.
Well, we're properly informed then.
Mm.
It's been a good week for United. I did say on last week's pod, I hope that next week we're sitting talking about 6 points, and thankfully we are. Two very important wins for United right at a time where there seems to be a lot of strong form in the table. Everyone around them picking up wins, and United did pick up two more. Um, First against Brentford, 1-0, then against Everton, 2-0, so clean sheets as well. De Gea making, so it didn't have a lot to do against Everton, but a great save against Brentford. Um, Almost did an assist as well in the Everton game. We'll talk about Brentford first of all. United proactive in both games, Paul. It seemed like they, a little bit stung by the criticism of the Newcastle performance as well. They should have been, but nice to see a response. I mean, the conditions against Brentford were really rubbish, but I think that sort of helped us. Really, it wasn't going to be a game where you're going to hold the ball in midfield, and United didn't have the players for that. So they they went at it from the first whistle, get the goal from Rashford. A couple of hairy moments late on, but held out for the win. Really important one, that one, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, I said before it was always a worry just the way Brentford were. But it seems looking at Brentford over their last two games, obviously against United and against Newcastle, they've hit a little bit of a patch. But prior to that, there's a side that go away from home and they are quite troublesome. If you let them get 1-0 up, they suffocate a game. They make the game tedious in the way they the way they conduct themselves. They're not you wouldn't see them as the nicest side to watch, to be perfectly honest. But it was important to win that game, and that second half was very edgy in the end because I thought that United took their foot off the gas. They didn't command the ball, didn't get control of the ball, and then the sub comes on and goes one against one. I think if that's Ivan Tony, there's more of a chance of him actually stretching David De Gea even better than what the other lad did. I mean, he just kicked it straight into David De Gea's nether regions, didn't he? When maybe he should have at least worked him. But there was they do cause problems. So I think really, if we look at the two games, you look at it performance wise, you look at it and you say that United have done really well so far, but now it's got to the point where I say you'll take a win. And I think me, I'm kind of a performance orientated person, but I'm looking at it. They've had to go the game 4 games without Casemiro playing, and that showed how
Yeah.
much he's been seriously missed. Really, really showed, and I think you just look at it and you go 6 points out of six against them. When you think about it, last season, previous seasons, United may have not, or a very good chance United would not have taken 6 points out of those two games.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it did feel like that. Those moments, have they got the sort of mental capacity to sort of get through those wins or get through the periods like against Everton that are taking an early lead. What's it going to be like in the second half? Can they get through and get that second goal? General comments, disappointed with the forwards. We'll get to that a little bit later. It's a good topic of discussion, which we will be coming back on. But yeah, the Everton game, different setup from the start. Fernandez, we talked about it on, I said you WhatsApp about it because I was like, surprised by this, and it seems to be working. Fernandez playing as the sort of sitting midfielder and McTominay a little bit further forward. And, you know, I'm not saying it was brilliant, but it seemed like the best solution out of all of the combinations we've tried. Fernandez maybe instructed to be a little bit less opportunistic with the passing. McTominay, we know, is not great at keeping possession, but he was able to sort of do that the passing and moving kind of thing that resulted in the goal. Really, he can do that quite well. And in the first half, at least, the setup seemed really positive. United put in a very good performance, really aggressive, a lot of chances. The quality of chances not perhaps really high, but they did create plenty, and it was a strong attitude. Importantly, when Everton looked like they were going to make those changes and try and get back into the game, United get that very, very important second goal from Martial. And then, obviously we've got the cherry on the cake with Eriksen back for the last 20 minutes, and Casemiro's obviously now able to play until one referee deems that he's should be sent off for being on the pitch in the next game. He gets 6-match ban or something. But up until that happens, Casemiro and Eriksen should be back in the next game at Forest. So how did you rate that? I mean, obviously, a lot of people will be looking at the number of chances, Paul, saying United created a lot. It wasn't like, that. I mean, a lot of them were Anthony shooting. Like they were against Brentford. He tried that shot. And to be fair, I would normally get a little bit frustrated with a player doing that, but it does work quite often for him. So, and we were, there was that really good chance in the first half where he hits the post with it. And perhaps he could have done better with a couple of the ones where he was played over the top. If it was that yard quicker, then maybe United's win would have been a lot more comfortable in the first half. But we played the right way. It was proactive. A lot of chances created. They were looking to create chances as well. So really positive performance. And like we were saying, the mental strength to sort of ride that little. I wouldn't say Everton ever really caused a storm, but the threat of a storm coming, they got that second goal and killed the game. So a really professional performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we have to say that in a way. It was a shut up shop more than anything really, and Everton had to make the substitution. Ben Godfrey couldn't play at left back. I mean, absolutely incredible, terrible what I saw of him. It was how he got caught 3 times on the bounce by the same ball, and it wasn't as if it was great. The balls and fantastic. It was just the position he was taking up as a right-footed centre half playing at left back. Just it wasn't working. I don't know why he wasn't playing the Ukrainian lad, Malenko. Just don't know why he never played. Why he isn't playing? Because at least they'd have had better balance, and it proved that when he come on, it changed, and United wasn't getting that kind of space anymore. But those opportunities that Anthony missed, and it was about pace in a way, because if he did have that bit more pace, he would have been able to get across the front of Anthony and got himself a little bit more central, and then he could have gone either side. But again, when he gets there, it's quite weak, really. I've never seen him really fizz a ball. I just wonder how much real strength he's got in that left foot. He doesn't really fizz him. He may be one of the ugliest strikers of a ball, left-footed players I've ever seen, to be perfect. It's normally you see a left-footed player and you want to be him. You just look at him and you think of, wow, just got something about a left foot. And the only one who maybe one of the ones I can remember who didn't and a left foot like a cannon was Stuart Pearce, but they're normally quite elegant players. But Anthony hasn't really got that finesse, and it's just a shame really that 2 of those opportunities fell to him. The other one out of the 3 that went in that same ball from left to right was the fact of he actually, it was a great save in the end. I would say as well by Pickford to his right. It was a really, really, even though I'm sure he had a really good idea where that was going, because he doesn't put any disguise on like he's gonna maybe try at the near post. It's the same kind of shot, but it could have been. They could have gone in at half time. I'm going to say at least 4 or 5, and that would have given the manager the opportunity then to make a raft of changes at half time. But they didn't do that, and the game was still on an edge until that second goal, because he makes those substitutions, and the substitutions looked for a few minutes. They made a difference. They got more energy in the midfield, because they were very sluggish, lackluster in midfield. Everton United weren't much quicker, but the moment they got the second goal, Garner coming on as one of the substitutes, it didn't allow him to get in the game. Tom Davis started quite lively. Tom Davis was trying to do an impersonation of Chucky. By the way he looked, to be honest, I'm surprised he didn't come on with a big pair of flares and a handbag. But I mean, just with a beard. But No, Everton, that that was poor. I was I mean, Everton are a side who have got big problems again, but I was expecting more of a dogfight from
Yeah,
Everton. But it seemed like they only can have a dogfight on their own patch. Away from home, they've got that bit of Nottingham Forest about them. There's not enough there, and if Sean Dyche can't get that from them, then that's a problem. It's a problem within the club. It's what maybe the club have become now. When Everton were never like that during their great periods in the mid '80s and after, you would never have an easy game against Everton. Yes, United always kind of beaten Everton at home,
yeah,
majority of the times. But there was always a fight, Wayne, and there was no great fight. And if it had showed a bit of fight, you might have thought the game's going to be a problem. The biggest problem to Manchester United at the weekend was Manchester United, to be perfectly honest. There
yeah.
was their own worst enemy to make that game so difficult.
Yeah. Well, I mean, more less straightforward than it should have been because I don't think it was ever difficult. But you're quite
Mm.
right about um, what was the nickname that they had in the '90s? Wasn't it when Joe Royal? Was it Joe Royal took over just after Mike Walker
Oh,
and
Dogs
they
of
won?
War.
Yeah,
Is that
exactly.
yeah,
You
yeah. Two lads in
mentioned
midfield that was, yeah.
yeah, and more like puppies then at the weekend. Well, off their own patch, like you said at Goodison, it's a different thing. Ben says Nani was like that at first, wasn't he? Always took the shooting chance until he developed his game a bit more. Hopefully that will come with Anthony too. Yeah, I guess it's keenness to make an impression. He said, by the way, Wayne, that was our 49th game this season, the same amount of games we played in the whole of last season, and we still have 12 to 16 games left. Yeah, and thankfully, squad's getting a bit fuller at the right time. Garnacho might even be back sort of like late month or something. Shouldn't miss the rest of the season, hopefully. Just going back to an earlier comment, Jem Will says Michaelenko is also bad. He does offer more going forward to Everton. I've watched some Everton games. Yeah, maybe that's the Dyche thing. He wanted to be more resolute. And so I haven't seen this. But Gemma also says, "What do you make of Ten Hag's comments about Harry?" I haven't seen the comments, so if you want to put them in the comment section, let me know. But on Maguire, he was brought in. It was a surprise selection, Paul. But being fair, he's probably one of the most criticised or scrutinised players at United, and rightly so, because his form over the last couple of years hasn't been great. But I thought he was very good on Saturday. No, I said by very good. I'm not going to say 8 out of 10. 7 out of 10, very steady. You know what I mean? He was quicker in releasing the ball. A few of those Hollywood passes, but they all came off. So, all bar one, I thought. And then there was that big shinner that went flying up and nearly created an assist for us as well. What did you make of Maguire's performance?
I looked at it. I looked what he was up against, and it had to be a half decent performance because he was up against. I have to say, really, in Ellis Sims, an absolute novice. So what he had to do, he done well. If he couldn't do well, who he was up against, then he's going to add more to his already list of problems there. So he done okay in a game which was easy to do okay. And be honest, no one was really stretched. They wasn't put under a great deal of pressure. The one who had the biggest problems, I thought, when I look at it defensively, was Malacia.
Yeah,
He struggled, gets himself caught up, but you've got to look at it. He started off quite well, then that allowed, be honest, on that side of it, it was a bit like it kind of he got Luke Shaw going. Luke
yeah,
Shaw got himself going and then got straight away that's his spot. And then he's had to come in for a little bit. So now he's got a bit. It seems like he might have a bit of a run because of an injury to Luke Shaw, and I don't know what that is. Just taking a punt at that. So I just think maybe got a little bit anxious in certain ways and trying too hard. You can see him. He's
yeah,
200 miles an hour. Everything he does, he's overemphasizing everything. He's trying to run forward all the time when sometimes he didn't have to. He could have virtually, him on the left hand side, and I did say this when I was working, is that United's strength is off their right hand side because the left hand side of him and Sancho wasn't working. It was too sluggish, and he was trying really hard to get it going by trying to underlap and overlap. The problem is at the moment, Sancho is too scared to release the ball sometimes because he doesn't want to make a mistake and
Yeah.
he's causing his own problems. So there was no great energy on that left hand side. It got quite complicated and overcomplicated in the end. But I just thought that Malacia struggled early on in that game, in that first 15 minutes to get himself into it. And then as the game steadily went on, he was no different to everyone else. It was just, as I said before, it was just a good win in the end.
Yeah. He was. I thought he was very good against Brentford when he came on, but I think you're probably right. Against Everton, it was almost like his pressure, or it felt like observing it. It looked like he's trying to do the things that Luke Shaw does, when he should just concentrate on doing the things that he does. Because he was
Correct.
very good when he came in, and I'm not saying I don't think he played particularly poorly, but yeah, there's definitely some of that anxiety. Where should he be? What should he be doing? That kind of thing. Those comments on Harry, by the way, from Eric Ten Hag were Maguire was dominating, dictating. This is a different Harry to what I've seen in the first weeks and months. He's taking so much initiative, dominating his opponents, stepping in, bringing passes. So a really great performance, like Paul said, with the caveat that it was a novice in the attack. But you've got to have the manager talking up a player at this point in the season, especially if he's the club captain, especially if you're probably wanting him to be an asset who's going to bring in somebody in the summer. You're not going to talk him down. And, United have got a lot of games. He's probably going to play a fair few more. So, yeah. So a couple more comments before we move on to the next point. Ben says, one thing I've noticed, we only have one away win against teams in the top half, but that's Fulham. Concerning. Yeah, I mean, we did talk about it a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about United's record in, I think it was last week's episode after Newcastle, how United are faring on the road, and whether that's a Ten Hag thing or whether it's just, I mean, some of those games, is there only Casemiro's only started in one of them at Liverpool, and the rest of them he was kind of like either brought on against against City, or he's been suspended. Did he play against Arsenal? Or he was suspended for that one, wasn't he? So,
Yeah.
So I mean, it is a concern. Don't get me wrong. Thankfully, I think there's only one. Is the one of those away games left, or maybe two of those away games left before the end of the season. I don't. There might even be more than that. Villa. We've played Villa. We've definitely played Villa away. We haven't played Brighton away, so that's one. Spurs away. I know he's definitely on there as well. So, two big away games coming up. Richard says, "Good morning, everyone. We're looking decent going into this week's game against Seville. Yeah, like I said earlier, Casemiro and Eriksen back. That's a good thing. Martial also back. Paul took his chance well. It was a good opening for him. Martial feels like he's such a confidence player, and now with Rashford potentially missing that game, and I still don't know what it looked like a bad one with his groin, because you could tell he pulled up immediately. He's like, I am coming off, I'm walking off. And you sometimes, when it's a muscle injury like that, you want them to lay down just so that they'll bring the stretcher over to take him away and not walk on it and aggravate it anymore. But he did, that's what he did. He walked off. But having said that, Martial back at the right time, scoring with confidence, and the run of fixtures. I'm not going to say that they're generous, but at least it's Sevilla, it's Nottingham Forest. You've got to feel that Martial in the goals and confident is an adequate replacement. And I still think whatever happens, like with Maguire, perhaps whatever happens in the next 12 to 16 games, as Ben says, is a step too far, even if they're outstanding in that period of time, that they might use that as collateral to bring money in for them. But it's a good opportunity for him nonetheless to, if you can't do it against those teams, this is exactly the kind of run that we need a player to step in for Rashford. And if Martial's not that player, then there've got to be grave concerns over there. I don't want to spin that in a negative way. And what I'm saying is Martial should be a good replacement, considering that he scored and he's presumably feeling confident.
Well, in theory, he's got all the credentials to be the only person to do that job.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, if the car doesn't want to start, it doesn't want to start, and it seems like he just gets there, and then he gets there and can't even get to idle him really. I mean, good finishing when it comes to it. When it comes clinical finisher, there isn't many better, to be perfectly honest. When you in that situation, he gets him in. He's that one person you'd want there 9 times. When he can see the goals. People talk about Rashford, but I personally think that Martial is a better finisher than what in that sense. People go, but so and so scored more goals. No, Martial, when it comes to it, is a better finisher when he gets in that situation. But you just don't know. Does he want to do it? Is he bothered? I mean, he scored that goal, but it didn't really see him enough in it. He didn't come on with any great appetite, and you didn't come in and make an impact, and everyone suddenly go, yeah, right, he's ready for. Yeah, he's got to have it. He looks like he wants to play on Thursday. And I think, don't know, he looks like somebody goes, well, looks like I'm gonna play because of Marcus is out injured now, so I might play, but I'm not sure. Rather than going out and really trying to do it, but that just might be, what saying it's a bit like the modern day player is like that. I really do think that's something that's ingrained in the majority of the modern day players, not really having that drive in them. It's like virtually it's going to happen. It might happen. Not never kind of, I'm going to try and make it happen. By really digging in, just going out and sticking my body in the way of something, doing something for the fans to actually believe it. I mean, if he starts against Sevilla, the fans are going to go, right, okay, let's see what you're going to do, rather than knowing what he's going to do and believing what he's going to do. That is his problem, and it hasn't changed, Wayne. And you know that. And what I'm doing is repeating what I've said over the last few years, to be perfectly honest. And the commentator with me talked about saying about Martial. He said he just comes and he just wants to score goals every time he comes in and he scores goals. But then I turned and said, but he just doesn't look like he's enjoying himself. And I think, even look at some people are moody, whatever, but you see something about him and it just isn't there. I mean, and for him, he should, going back to Sevilla as well, where he had a poor time on loan, he should be, when he goes back there, he should actually want to turn around and go back and try and do something. And then they still might call him out, not for doing it for them. At least he can, he's got some kind of response. Well, I didn't want to be there, showing I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be with United, and I'm trying to prove it now. So it does concern me when I do look at Martial, and I worry about it, because I think the way I look at him now, if and when he does leave, I don't think we're going to see or hear him again. He's never going to. He won't be. He will not be. Certainly, throwing stuff back at United for the way he was treated, because people want to see that on a pitch, and whoever takes him on, I think they're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, it's like I said, big sort of 15 games for him, but whether or not it's going to have a big impact on his future at United, I would say United are the ones hoping for that leverage at this moment in time, which is a shame because, like I said, the credentials, the ability, there's a player there, but by the same token, you can't really see him coming back to haunt United. Whereas, maybe 2017, 2018, if we'd have moved him on when his stock was relatively high, you might have worried about him coming back, but maybe that motivation, like I said, maybe it's just not there. If you can't get motivated playing for United, and don't get me wrong, it's a big stage, a lot of players freeze on it, but he's had more than enough opportunities. He can complain about treatment, but I think he's been very, I don't want to say indulged, but he's been looked after. He was put, at one point, he was in a war with a manager, Mourinho. He was favoured in that, like they took the club sort of back to the players in that. But we'll see. We'll see. It does bring on to the earlier question about being disappointed with the forwards, and I do want to mention this on a broader note. I mean, you've said a few times about Rashford's goals masking his level of performance, but the goals are there. So let's take Rashford out of the conversation. The other forwards, Anthony's contributed a few goals, but that same goal a few times, and to be fair, it's worked. I mean, I think he commented something like he's won the club's goal of the month 4 times out of however 8 this season. And I'm like, yeah, you've won it for the same goal every single time, which is fine because they've all been good when they've gone in. But Vegos has obviously only got 2. Ronaldo wasn't pulling up any trees before he went. It's difficult, and without Rashford in there. I mean, I don't know. Do you look at the forwards, Paul, in this? He said that they've got to take the responsibility, or do you look further back and say, well, for long periods of time this season, we've had Eriksen's been out for 3 months. Casemiro's had these long suspension periods, and we've had a disjointed midfield that's never had a consistent run together. And when it has had a consistent run together, that's when we've looked at our best. And then you sort of fragment that up, and it's a bit difficult for then the forwards to have any consistency. In the same way that we would say that the rest of the team struggles because the heart of the defence wasn't strong last season. Now we're saying this season, maybe it's a cumulative thing that the attack can't get going because the midfield behind them haven't been creative enough. They haven't been able to hold the ball long enough when Casemiro and Eriksen haven't been playing. Or do you think that the forwards ought to take a little bit more responsibility in this position?
I mean, that's a valid point in the midfield. Just lately, over the last six weeks, say to 2 months, it has been a little bit of a change. Like say the injury to Eriksen and Casemiro, the main two, as far as I'm concerned, the main 2 players, the ones who you know what you're going to get. Bruno, you don't know what you're going to get. You have to just wait. You don't know. Depends how he feels in the morning, how erratic he's going to be, what level of being erratic he's going to be at, and ill-disciplined as well in the way he plays. But I get that bit. Maybe some opportunities not being enough being made. But we've got to remember over the great seasons that United have had over the years, so many years. Sometimes you look. There's been forwards. And there's always been more than one in a team who can make something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And you're looking for that little bit of something, just add something. And you do look at it. Marcus Rashford has added goals. And then you look at it and you say, the rest of them haven't done that, Wayne. You can talk about Anthony. We can talk about the goals he scored, but it hasn't been enough with where he's been and what he's missed. There hasn't been enough. There hasn't been enough end product. And I don't mean this silly assist and everything like that. It's not me at all. So I'm with Dean Saunders on that one. This silly assist thing, like it makes or breaks. I mean, it's great that you do that, but you look at Sancho, and you can't keep wrapping him in cotton wool and keep feeling, you can only go so far. But you've got to look at the individual and ask him the question, what is the problem? Please tell us what's wrong. Why aren't you doing what you was doing when you was in Germany? Are you struggling? And I think he is struggling. You can't, people throw things up and try and protect him, but life isn't like that. You can't keep on doing it. Somewhere along someone's going to ask you the hard questions, and you have to produce at some time. You've got to want to, he's the main. He has been the poorest out of all of them in that front line, to be perfectly honest. He hasn't done it. Hasn't done enough.
Yeah, and he had some time out, and I thought he was all right against Everton. I thought he was poor against Brentford, but I thought he was a little bit more proactive. There was something about him, but maybe it's there was a little bit more zip in the.
But the problem is though, Wayne, is that he doesn't knock crosses in. Doesn't from wide areas. He never tries to knock a cross in early. It's great. Normally you say to people, get the ball, and the last thing I wanted to be as a fullback is all of a sudden someone gets the ball, allow someone to turn and run at me with the ball. As much as I'd always say, yep, I'm quick enough to recover, you don't want it. You don't want it. He does it, but you can see he hasn't got that drive to push it beyond him and maybe at worst come out of a corner. Now that's the kind of stuff that gets people off their seat. Anthony even tried against Everton to go around the outside of the fullback, and he earned a corner. Straight away you go, wow, that's something different. Makes the defender think about how he's going to do it. Anthony, Sancho, you know exactly what he's going to do. He's never going to play. He's never going to go two touch. It's always going to be 3-4, slow, flick it with the outside, flick it back inside, then maybe flick it back.
Yeah.
And he runs and runs into the box, into the congestion area, and by then he's trying to be intricate within about 2 feet of space, trying to be intricate. And if it comes off, it's more by luck than judgment. So I don't know. Ten Hag has done really well, but it's the same old story. You know, people are not taking bets anymore on him coming off. When he starts, people will not take bets on him coming off because you know that Ten Hag will take him off.
Yeah, I think I remarked on him in the last week saying that he's kind of like a plan A player, but if plan A doesn't work, he doesn't go to plan B. He goes to see if plan A will work again, and it can be frustrating to watch. A couple of comments from Ben in reference to what you just said about Anthony. Anthony uses his right foot. Yeah, and I think the thing is, again, to go back to Anthony, it doesn't matter if it's the same trick, if it is the same plan A. If it works occasionally, you can sort of see. But you do want to see, especially wingers, especially because they're the difference makers. They should be in. We should call them wide forwards now, not properly wingers. But they're still the difference makers in the game. They can't just have one trick. They've got to have a whole alphabet of plans to be able to, like Ronaldinho or someone like that. I know that's a high bar, but what I'm saying is wingers are supposed to have that box of tricks where they've got an alphabet in there that A, B, C, D, E, F, that you don't know what they're going to do. Ben also remarks on the fact that Fernandes is the only other player in double figures for goals this season. There humorous conversation going on about Martial. So this is in the comments, by the way, so I'll just come to that quickly. Mike says 100% Martial's a better finisher than Rashford, the earlier point we're making. It's his effort and motivation on match day that's always a doubt. Such a shame as he's got so much talent. He suggested Martial plus 50 million for Kane. Richard said we'll get laughed out of the room for that, Mike. Well, dealing with Daniel Levy is never going to be fun, is it? And Ben says Martial is another one in a long list of footballers who've never reached their potential. It's a pity. And Patrick says, happy Easter, gents. Happy Easter to you as well, mate. Hope you're doing well. Aside from a new number 9, what are your thoughts on Palestri, Diallo, and Garnacho as key attackers for the future? I'm not sure on the first two, to be honest. I know Diallo's doing quite well at Sunderland, deciding games for them, but I don't know if that's still at his level. Do you know what I mean? If he's a difference maker at that level. I wasn't massively unimpressed with him when he's played for us, but I do think he struggled to make an impression. He's really diminutive. You've got to be lightning or really special to make a difference at United's level. That Palestri's done all right when he's come on. I'd like to see him give him more chances, but Garnacho, I don't have a problem with. I think he will be a key attacker, and it's just a shame he got injured when he did. Very quickly, Paul, your thoughts on those three before we move on?
Yeah, I do like Palestri. He's got something about him. I keep saying this. He come on as sub in one game, and he made such an impact. When he made good out of bad, I should say. That's better. Yeah. Or something, and he made a goal. Come about when he's chased something he had no right to get to, and instead of just trying to keep possession, he's actually spun it round and turned it into a cross. And I can't think what game it was. Someone will tell me. Can't think what it was. Garnacho, if you're talking, is the one really because he's got a little bit more physicality about him than maybe the other two. Diallo, I saw him the other day. I saw him the Sunderland game when they played against 4-4 game with Hull City. Nice touches, whatever, but still, yes, he looks slight. He doesn't look big enough, and people could have said that about me. But when you're just looking for, for me, strength comes from within.
Yeah.
If your head's telling you you're not strong and you're weak and small, then you're going to have a big problem. If you're telling yourself you don't care, you're just going to go up against anybody. It's a football match. No one's actually can actually beat you up on the football pitch. It's not going to happen. So you go out there and size doesn't matter. Diallo, I think size matters. That might be one of the physicality up in Scotland, mostly frighten the life out of him.
Yeah.
So coming to the Championship, it seems like coming to a kindergarten for him in this moment in time. But I mean, the Premier League, yeah, we've seen it, players fall down at the slightest touch, but there's still that presence you need. And the presence, I don't mean 6'6", just something that people can see that you're strong mentally. And I don't think Diallo's got that yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Garnacho definitely does. Ben says, "Do we know when he's back?" Not sure. And they said I thought that the original prognosis was like 6 weeks or something. And has it been three? Three? Has it been a month
Mm.
already? It's been a while. He's been out. So hopefully he'll be back in certainly by the end of the month. I would hope. Yeah, Sevilla. They've been a bit of a bogey side for us in the past. A big bit. We've played them 3 times, lost 2 of them, and drew the other one. So, um, not even just a bit of a bogey side. We've never won against them, but they are 13th in La Liga. They drew the last game, and if they've been watching United in preparation for this game, then they've been watching United without Casemiro and without Eriksen. We're a very different team, and even with Rashford and the over reliance on him, I wonder if this might work in United's favour because we kind of know what we'll expect. I don't know if Vegas will play if Rashford's not playing. If he'll try and keep it more vibrant with, give Sancho another chance, give Martial a run through the middle, and put Anthony there. Play those 3 from the start, and then you've got, let's say, Eriksen starts. It's a very different proposition to what they would be expecting if, say, Casemiro and Eriksen weren't playing and Rashford was playing. They know what they're going to hit. United are going to be looking for Rashford all the time. If you don't have him there and United have got some good movement, doesn't matter how much scouting they've done on United, they could spring a surprise against them. So hopefully that's conducive to United finally getting a win over them. We shall see. The next game after that, Paul, is Forest at the weekend. Now, their recent form, they've lost 4 out of the 5, including the last 2. The board have come out and backed Steve Cooper. They've done that a couple of times this season. There was one point earlier in the season where it looked like he was nailed on to get sacked, and it was extraordinary, really, the kind of vote of confidence that came out. And the board came out with, and then they've done it again in the last week. And Forest still struggling. They never look like a team who are going to get absolutely destroyed. I know they've had a couple of but they try and play football the right way. And we went there. I mean, possibly the weakest they've played is when we played them, because as soon as we got the first goal against them at the City Ground earlier this season, we really took control of that game. And yeah, if you don't have Rashford, let's say, even if he's not in the squad or anything like that, then you want to be able to control that game. And with Casemiro and possibly Eriksen back again, it gives us a really strong footing to go into a game like that.
Yeah, the only thing with Sevilla is that you can't judge them by their league position. That's the thing
Yeah,
about that. Somehow there is this, thing with them, this competition. Simple as that. They just seem to know how to play how to get success from this competition. Them and
yeah,
Villarreal maybe are 2 sides, bogey sides for Manchester United. I'm right in saying, Villarreal, okay, yeah, they are a problem. They get them, and you know that there's not going to be a lot of goals
yeah,
when Villarreal around. But Sevilla's a difficult one. I saw them play last season at West Ham. So I mean they are a decent side, and something again when they play in this competition lifts the fans and going there first. Is the right way round. Definitely the right way round. So Rashford not playing is actually a little bit like it could be a watered down version of the Man City issue with Haaland. You just might find that the team might operate a little bit
yeah,
better in the way they play. You might just see the ball shifting around a bit quicker when he's not there, rather than maybe I think in certain ways Marcus Rashford has taken it upon himself that he's the only one who can score, so he's looking to run and shoot all the time.
yeah,
And he has too many touches and runs into cul-de-sacs, just full of cul-de-sacs. We look like a marketplace. So many bodies in there. It's ridiculous. And you think, what are you trying to do? And it's more just a hit and hope. But you could, I'm agreeing what you're saying. This could be a little bit of something that could make a difference, really, and it just might make other people think about their responsibilities when it comes to maybe trying to get in there and score goals.
yeah. Yeah, and that's a positive problem to have, really. No, it's not a positive problem that your top goal scorer's out of the side, but when Ten Hag's we're looking at the current ambitions. Don't get me wrong, but we're also looking at big careers here. Like Anthony's got to step up. The spotlight is there for a player to step up and take that responsibility, and you'll see, hopefully, one of them do that. Yeah, so I mean that's Sevilla. What do you make of the Forest game? Because I mean, obviously they have been in poor form again, and like Ben says, even Vegos scored against Forest, so defensively they're a little bit suspect as well. And if we've got that movement thing going, it could be one of those sparking things. Like you have a good performance on Thursday in the Europa League, with that movement in the attack, and then you're not worried so much about rushing Rashford back into it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I will say though, it's another game. It's no different to the Brentford game and the Everton game, in the sense of everyone expects Manchester United to win, but United's form away from home has been poor
Yeah,
performance wise. Performance wise, their last good performance away from home was at the Emirates, and they got beaten late goal.
yeah,
Good performance. And then you look at it going to Forest. Forest's strength, and a lot of the teams down the bottom, their strength has been their home form. Forest are reliant on their home form. They're hoping that's going to get them by, because already Steve Cooper must have given up on them away from home. If you go and concede four at London Stadium, you have got a big problem away from home, to be perfectly honest, and that's what Forest done. So, but they'll go that they should go there and they should win quite comfortably. But there's always that little bit. It's about how they start the game. If they allow Forest to get a position of strength, and that means maybe go and get the first corner, just make maybe the first, get David De Gea to make the first save of the game. Those little bits always come into it when you're playing away from home. Stop it. Don't allow it to happen. If anybody's going to get the first dead ball situation, has to be you as an away side in their half of the pitch.
yeah,
And that's what they've got to do. You've got to start right. You have to have the right players who are willing to fight first and then enjoy the rest. But if you haven't got them out there, as the old saying used to be, you have to win the battle to win a war.
yeah,
And that's still the same. And something that I think has been lost, again, I use these words, in the modern day football, that's something that's been lost, because when you're watching over the weekend, and I saw it when I was doing the United game midweek, I watched West Ham come out the second half after scoring a late goal to get themselves back in the game at 2-1. What do they go and do within the first 2 minutes? Roll the ball out to the centre half inside the box to play out from the back. After digging deep and getting so, and straight away they're 3-1 down inside 2.5, 3 minutes of the second half.
yeah,
No, that's not the way to do it. And just a little bit about that playing out from the back, because some people do it. If you know that, if other managers should know it as well, if someone isn't good at something but's got a massive strength at something else, play to their strengths. Don't
yeah,
ask people to do things you know they're not comfortable doing. And that's what's happening a lot now. So, Emily, there's been a lot of goals given away this weekend because of even in German football. I've seen them all this morning, all
yeah,
happening because of people trying to play from ridiculous positions. And what happens is, if someone brings out a gun, what happens is everyone puts on a bulletproof vest. That's what happens. They suddenly go, well, oh yeah, got a gun, bulletproof vest. And what happens is they see you go, roll the ball out, 6 yard line, everyone just goes bang. And the thing about it, and I know I've changed it completely. The thing about it, we used to do that when I was playing. Roll the ball out to the fullback. Fullback might give it into midfield, comes back from the midfield player, and because someone's come with him, you drop it in behind to space. They don't do that more. Everyone wants to score the prettiest goal in the world. So we know already that David De Gea, that's not his strengths, as you saw the other day. He was in doubt. He put the ball out there.
yeah,
He said, I'm not comfortable. I'm going to put it there because they can't score. And then we're going to get back and we're going to defend. For me, that's great.
yeah,
As a player, and Harry Maguire does this a lot. And I know what Ten Hag said about him, but he keeps giving the ball to people and to David De Gea when he knows they're not in a position of strength. He does it because he's in a bit and he thinks that's okay to do because he'll play out of there. So you have to, you know your strengths, and you shouldn't be doing. Even with Wan-Bissaka there, who's done excellent, and I thought he played really well. Should have scored.
Yeah.
We never mention that, by the way. But sometimes you just say, no, we're not going to do it. Squeeze up, start again. And that's my little rant over and done with.
No, he was magnificent on Saturday, Wan-Bissaka. But no, you're right, and I think that's a sign of a great coach, isn't it? First of all, if you've got a player who thinks he's better at doing something than he is, or you've got a philosophy which um, is reliant on players having qualities that they don't currently have, then you have to make adaptations, or you have to be strong enough to tell a player that they're not. They have to be better at doing certain things, and I think that Ten Hag has done that in a lot of situations this season. He seems to have got the penny dropping with Maguire as well, and I think I'm not saying I still think Maguire's probably worth more to United as an asset in the summer if he's in good form, because there is a good defender in there. I still think when I see Ten Hag working with him and I see the things that he can do, I think he's a good. He can be a good squad option if he cuts out the things that are not so great.
Yeah. But on that, I know we ain't got a lot of time, Wayne, but just on when you play over Harry Maguire, everyone goes, oh, but he plays great when he goes and plays for England. I could be the most unfittest person ever to go out there and play. But if my team's going to sit on the edge of the box, I don't have to be fit. I can
Yeah,
defend that line so deep. If you're asked to squeeze up and think about things and then be prepared then to drop off to come back just to threaten teams that you're dropping off and then to squeeze up, which is physically demanding. You're asking them to do it. Quickness of feet, quickness of mind. He can't do that. That's why
yeah,
he can't play the way Ten Hag wants. He can't play the way Jurgen Klopp would want or used to want, which Liverpool don't do anymore. He can't play the way Pep Guardiola wants to play because of quickness of mind and quickness of feet.
yeah,
So every time you know he's playing, you will see Manchester United play deeper, as they did against Everton. They
yeah,
played deeper. And you see he wants to knock these balls, his Hollywood balls. He can do that because he's sitting so deep. He's not in positions where he can hurt people. You see Martinez, when he does it, he hurts teams because he plays higher with Varane. So when he knocks the ball through and he puts a lot of pace on it, he's virtually saying to the person, I'm knocking this to you because you've got time to turn. That's why I'm knocking it quick. Harry
yeah,
Maguire was knocking those balls long, those Hollywood balls, as you call them. There was a bit of string hanging on them. It took that long to get down. It was no difference where you see Varane, not Varane, so Martina, and he just goes bing, and he
yeah,
just drills it in, and that when someone drills a ball in hard, they're saying turn.
yeah. Move fast. Yeah,
But yeah,
exactly.
that's what that ball means. Someone will shout turn as every player should do, but that pass is actually a
Yeah,
voice telling you what you can do when that ball comes in. You knock a ball short to someone, a little bit of weight on it, that means come to it. There's someone close to you. Play the way you're facing.
yeah.
That's my coaching session over.
We'll have one of them every week. That's great. Yeah, Paul says. Ben says, "Love that insight, Paul." Yep, I love that. The pass is the voice. And someone said it earlier in that one. The strength comes within. Patrick saying, "I'm going to finish that quote for the youth I mentor, if you don't mind." So he's been on top form this week, giving the mentoring out. So yeah, you come for the football, you stay for the life lessons. That's what it is. Ben says, forgot to mention that Wan-Bissaka spent a lot of time in the middle of the pitch, which was unusual for him. Mike says, I like
True.
Wan-Bissaka. Yes, he's improved, but his passing and decision making on and off the ball still frustrates. Can't see him being here long term. Now, I don't often disagree with you, Mike. I'm not fully disagreeing with you. I wonder if the worst case scenario is with some of these players like Dalot, like Wan-Bissaka, like Maguire, is that the stock has improved considerably from the back end of last season, where they can bring in decent fees for United to revitalise the squad. Then that's still a really big bonus point from where we were when Eric Ten Hag came in. And you've got to credit the players for that as well as the manager, because they've stepped up for various reasons. One last one before we go, because we were talking about Sevilla and we sort of skipped over that for the Forest and then Paul's coaching insights. Patrick said, "Strange as it seems, I feel more confident with Casemiro and Eriksen back, even with Rashford's likely absence. We'll have a bit more control and create chances for others to finish." Which which is basically what we were saying, and we were hoping for that. Yeah, it could have a counter effect on United and really liberate them. And to be fair, if it does, and while giving those players praise like Wan-Bissaka, like Dalot, maybe there's now that shop window for Martial, for not necessarily Sancho in terms of a shop window, but an opportunity there to take that responsibility and step up in Rashford's absence, hopefully. They can follow that trend and make, because if they do, it's going to make a really strong end to the season for United if they can have that kind of option in attack. Hopefully, like this week, we'll be back next week talking about 2 wins for United, because I think we desperately need a win in that first leg against Sevilla, and a win at Forest is going to be massive in terms of, if we get it, in terms of securing that fourth or Champions League spot, I should say, not just fourth. And one last one before we go. Gemel says, I want to see Sabitzer as that advanced midfielder, maybe in the 9, sort of. Well, yeah, like he plays for Austria. Yeah, I mean, I think that's where Ten Hag's trying to put, well, giving a run for McTominay at the moment, and he's not playing poorly, so you don't sort of criticise or demoralise a player by taking him out when he's playing poorly. Although obviously the return of Eriksen will do that naturally. We'll see. I mean, I certainly feel more positive than I did after the Newcastle game, and credit to the manager and credit to the players for that, because they've turned around the situation in a week and made it feel quite positive for the back end of the season. But like Paul was saying earlier, it's this next sort of 6 weeks where you're going to see the test. Have United evolved from this team of the last sort of 2 years, where, especially against Forest, United would have gone to a team like Forest and sort of buckled under a team who are trying to desperately get that home record, like their fortress, so to speak, feeling good. United have capitulated in those kind of games in recent years. So if they've got the mental strength to come through that, again, we can credit the manager and the players, and hopefully we're doing that next week. If you enjoyed the pod, please give us a like and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't done that already, and give us a positive review on iTunes if you don't mind, because that really helps as well. We'll be back next week, guys. Enjoy your bank holiday, and thanks for listening and watching.